Scientists are supposed to have all the answers, right? Well, not quite. For every discovery they make, there seem to be an equal number of questions. And some findings are so strange that even the experts can't quite explain them. Here are 12 of the most incredible finds that scientists still can't explain. On number 1, we have the Lost City of Atlantis. Nobody knows if the island of Atlantis is real or a fabrication of fiction. The History Channel describes Atlantis as a probable mythological nation, although many historians believe it was once a real location. Plato spoke in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias about the mighty monarchy that thrived there, claiming that the island collapsed into the sea approximately 9600 BC. The lost city of Atlantis has been connected to a renowned tourist site, the Greek island of Santorini, since it was previously destroyed by a volcanic explosion. However, the story still doesn't make sense. On number 2, we have Moa Birds. Moa birds were flightless birds that lived in New Zealand until becoming extinct around the year 1500. Moa were a group of 9 extinct flightless birds native to New Zealand. The two biggest species, Dinornis robustus and Dinornis novazandale, stood around 3.6 meters tall with their necks outstretched and weighed about 230 kilograms, while the bush moa was about the size of a turkey. According to one hypothesis, the Maori people exterminated them. During a 20th century trip, scientists discovered a very huge claw from one of the birds that had been miraculously preserved for decades. Scientists are still baffled as to why the species became extinct roughly 500 years ago. On number 3, we have Stonehenge. Just staring at the massive piled stone planks that comprise Stonehenge is enough to make your back suffer. Consider how humans in past times hauled these boulders hundreds of kilometers before the introduction of the wheel. Today, this ancient location in Wiltshire, England is still one of the world's biggest mysteries. The boulders that make up this stone ring weigh over 25 tons each and tower approximately 13 feet tall. Around 3100 BC, humans of the late Neolithic period began erecting these massive constructions. On number 4, we have the Stone Age Tunnel. Mysterious tunnels stretching all the way from Scotland to Turkey have been uncovered, but specialists are still uncertain why or how they were built. What makes them even more mysterious is how magnificent they are and how painstakingly they were constructed. Scientists are baffled by these hundreds of Stone Age subterranean passageways. In his book, Secrets of the Underground Door to an Ancient World, Dr. Henrik Kusch claimed that the tunnels were dug beneath literally hundreds of Neolithic settlements across Europe. The fact that they have lasted for almost 12,000 years demonstrates that the original tunnels must have been much larger. He also believes that the tunnels were intended to be roads, allowing people to travel to remote locations across Europe. Across Europe, there were hundreds of these tunnels, from the north in Scotland down to the Mediterranean, he continues. They are intermingled with nooks, some of which are bigger and include sitting, as well as storage chambers and rooms. They don't all connect, but collectively, they form a gigantic underground network. On number 5, we have the giant stone sphere of Costa Rica. These strange stone structures pique our interest not only because of their flawlessly spherical shape, but also because of their unknown origins and function. Workers clearing the forest from a banana plantation spotted them in the 1930s. Local folklore said that the enigmatic spheres held buried wealth, however, they proved to be empty. On number 6, we have Yellowstone's Old Faithful. It's an incredible sight to see Yellowstone National Park's Old Faithful geyser hurl water more than 100 feet into the sky from a hole in the earth. The geothermal feature demonstrates how alive the earth is, with the continual brewing within. According to popular science, the geyser erupts at regular intervals due to a process of magma creating and heating rock, which then warms water to a degree that causes it to shoot up through a tiny aperture and into the sky, wowing Yellowstone tourists time and time again. On number 7, we have the door to hell in Turkmenistan. Turkmenistan, a Central Asian country, has a 230-foot wide crater in the middle of the desert that has been on fire for more than 40 years. The burning hole is known as the door to hell because some people think it leads to the underworld. While it appears to be extremely frightening, there is a totally legitimate scientific explanation behind it. The Darvaza gas crater, as it is officially known, was built in 1971 by Soviet scientists who were digging for natural gas reserves. When their rig blew up, the Soviets set fire to the crater to avoid the spread of deadly gas, and it has been blazing ever since. On number 8, we have the centuries-old Fruitcake, Antarctica. Several items from the Terra Nova expedition headed by Robert Falcon Scott between 1910 and 1913 were recently unearthed in Cape Adare, Antarctica. According to the Antarctic Heritage Trust, among the antiques was a fruitcake so fresh that the scientists who discovered it stated it looked and smelled nearly edible. Most people find it weird that a freshly baked cake was discovered in one of the most distant, deserted places on the planet, but additional investigation revealed that this specific brand of cake, Huntley & Palmer's, was actually a favorite of the late explorer. As a result, the cake was supposedly left there by him. Its freshness was protected by the continent's freezing temperatures. On number 9, we are going to discuss the potential life in space. Even the late Stephen Hawking expressed his belief that we are not alone. Most scientists think that alien life exists somewhere in the cosmos, which is why they try so hard to locate it. As a result, when the news of a new discovery pointing to the likelihood of aliens emerges, it doesn't create much of a stir. For example, in 2016, scientists identified a planet circling Centauri, the closest star to Earth's sun, that potentially holds water and life in its habitable zone. But have you heard anything about it? No. On number 10, we have underwater monolith in the Mediterranean Sea. A 39-foot monolith was discovered on the seafloor off the coast of Sicily in 2015. When divers went down to study the strange stone, an assortment of holes bored into it showed that it truly was constructed. It also didn't match the other rocks on the seafloor that surrounded it. Instead, the rock particle they tested was 40,000 years old, from the last ice age, when that piece of land that's currently 130 feet underwater was dry. So, was it built by the humans who lived on these islands during the late Pleistocene epoch? On number 11, we have the Marfa Lights. Even though there isn't nearly as much water in the desert as there is in the Mekong, the Naga fireball idea might almost be applied to the Marfa Lights in Texas. According to reports, these spheres are around the size of basketballs and come in a variety of colors. They have been observed to glitter, dart, hover, and even split in half. The Marfa Lights were initially reported in 1883 by a farmer who spotted them while grazing his cattle and mistook them for Native American campfires, but no ashes were recovered. Scientists believe the Marfa Lights, like the Naga fireballs, are created by gases rising from arid marshes. On number 12, we have the Hobbit of Flores. When the 18,000-year-old bones of the Flores man, who was actually a woman, were discovered in 2003 on the Indonesian island of Flores, experts assumed they originally belonged to a human, albeit a very different one. According to Smithsonian Magazine, the skull they discovered was less than a third of the size of ours. Later discoveries indicated that the bones belonged to a Homo floresiensis, a separate type of archaic human that survived after the Neanderthals died out. They dubbed the primitive lady Hobbit after J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings because of their elfin stature. Many critics, however, dispute how a hominoid with that small of a brain could possibly produce the complex tools discovered nearby. This brings us to the end of our video. Don't be afraid to suggest future videos in the comment section below.